Before you listen, if you enjoy the stories and want to hear more, then please consider subscribing. Most of you listening aren't subscribed, so please take this time to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story and be the first to hear. You'll also be supporting me. Thank you. Like most singles nowadays, I've been on my fair share of mediocre Tinder dates over the years. But nothing prepared me for the night I arrived eager to meet my match Pete, only to discover I'd been completely catfished by this fraud. Pete had seemed amazing on paper. His profile boasted rugged good looks, with warm brown eyes, sculpted jawline, and muscular physique. His bio painted him as an active 31-year-old construction supervisor and avid surfer who loved the outdoors. I was instantly intrigued when Pete messaged me, complimenting my smile and asking me out for drinks. We'd messaged back and forth for a couple weeks, gradually getting to know each other better between flirty banter and making date plans. I felt butterflies, genuinely excited at the prospect of meeting this handsome, outgoing guy who seemed so aligned with my own interests. On the night of our date, I took extra time getting ready, eagerly anticipating how effortlessly those online sparks would translate to real-life chemistry. I did my hair and makeup just so, choosing a flattering dress to accentuate my best features. This felt different than my usual tepid Tinder meetups. I was truly optimistic it could unfold into something meaningful. When I arrived downtown at the trendy pub we'd chosen, I gave Pete's name to the hostess, and she pointed me towards the bar where a lone guy sat nursing a beer. But as I approached with a smile, my steps faltered in confusion. This man looked absolutely nothing like the dashing photos I've been admiring for weeks. He appeared to be in his 50s, average build with thinning hair, pronounced wrinkles, and pale skin that had definitely seen better days. My mind spun. Could this be a mistake? As I tentatively asked, Pete, the man glanced up looking startled before breaking into an awkward, overeager grin. Wow, you must be Amy. Wow, just wow. Even prettier than your pictures. His tone rang falsely upbeat compared to the chill, relaxed vibe of our earlier messages. I sat staring in stunned disbelief, not quite sure how to process this total bait and switch. Pete launched distractingly into loud, small talk about work stress and traffic, clearly trying to skirt around the elephant in the room. Eventually, I found my voice again to confront him. Okay, time out. You look nothing like the photos on your profile, and you seem way older. What's going on here? Pete acted offended, insisting he just didn't have any recent pictures and that he'd simply let himself go a bit fitness-wise. But his excuses sounded hollow. With some reflection, he was certain I would give him a second chance to make a better first impression if we just moved forward with dinner. He pleaded for an open mind, swearing he had meant no real harm. I sat in stunned silence as this complete stranger justified straight-up catfishing me with lies and outdated photos. Pete downplayed it as no big deal, claiming he'd only been trying to put his best foot forward online. In his mind, a little fudging was permissible since guys needed any advantage they could get on dating apps. I was floored by his utter lack of remorse. He seemed oblivious to how manipulative and wrong this was. As Pete pressed for my sympathy and tried persuading me to stay for our meal, my shock turned swiftly to outrage. How dare he think I would still want to date someone who deliberately muscled me from the very first message? This man violated my trust before we even met. Now he somehow expected open arms after revealing his totally fabricated identity. I felt like such a fool for being so swayed by this fake persona Pete created, but even worse was his pathological sense of entitlement to another chance. In his mind, only superficial details had changed, not the connection we supposedly shared. I was supposed to ignore the fact that he clearly saw nothing wrong with lying to get women to meet him under false pretenses. Rather than cause a spectacle, I did the sham date as politely as I could muster before making up an excuse to leave. Pete pathetically pleaded for us to still have some fun, oblivious to how his deception had ruined any potential between us. I couldn't wait to escape and put distance between myself and this two-faced snake. The audacity of this man, to first lure me in based on complete lies, then try to make me feel guilty or closed-minded for being justifiably upset, as if I owed him something after he violated my trust and wasted my time before we even met. Like so many women before me, I had learned the hard way that Tinder profiles often conceal the unflattering truths. After that awful night, I immediately deleted every trace of Pete, his number, messages. Any connection between us vanished. I had no interest in his laying apologies or sob stories after the fact. Once someone shows you their true manipulative colors, believe them. No second chances or benefits of the doubt. I came away from that catfishing incident warier and wiser about online dating. From then on, I made A-Match's video chat first before meeting up. It stung to have my excitement and optimism corroded by dishonesty. But I refused to dwell on deceivers like Pete who rely on false identities. I knew genuine, honest men were out there, even if apps made them harder to find. This was just another harsh reminder that you have to trust your instincts and stand up for yourself, especially with online dating. Don't make excuses for liars or downplay their deception. You deserve respect. As a single guy actively dating, I always tried to consider myself pretty sharp and savvy. But that didn't stop me from ignorantly letting my guard down and getting completely played by a recent Tinder match named Melissa. Behind her cute online persona was a manipulating criminal who drugged and robbed me blind. I felt like such an idiot in retrospect, but also deeply unsettled that she would commit such premeditated crimes against a stranger just to steal some cash. After barely escaping that nasty surprise unharmed, I learned to be much more cautious and skeptical meeting women online. Melissa had initially caught my eye with her witty bio and flirty banter over messaging. She said she was new to town for a graduate program, wanting help exploring the bar scene. As a longtime local, I enthusiastically offered to take her out and show her around. We made plans to meet that weekend at a bar downtown I liked. When I arrived, Melissa was easy to spot, giving me a megawatt smile and wave from a booth. She looked exactly as advertised in her photos, shoulder-length blonde hair, stylish outfit, perfect makeup accentuating her pretty features. I introduced myself and she gushed, "Oh my God, you're even cuter in person." As we slid into the leather booth, I could already tell this would be a promising first date. We ordered drinks and the conversation flowed surprisingly smoothly right off the bat. Melissa was bubbly, leaning in with interest and laughing at all my jokes. She made me feel witty just talking about mundane topics like work, family, hobbies. Basic get-to-know-you fare. But she still acted completely enthralled, like everything I said was the most fascinating thing she'd ever heard. After a couple cocktails, I was really starting to vibe with Melissa, my guard completely down. She kept showering me with compliments and suggesting shots to turn up the fun. At one point we were giggling together, legs brushing under the table. In that moment, I thought to myself, I can't wait to introduce her to my friends. But sometime after that, things start to get blurry. My memories become foggy and fragmented, words slurring. The next thing I know, I'm startled awake in my bed the next morning, head absolutely throbbing. Bright sunlight is streaming in. What the hell happened last night? As I sit up in confusion, horror suddenly sets in. My wallet and keys are missing from the nightstand. I stumble out of bed only to see my card is gone from its spot on the street. I grab my phone and panic to find angry texts from my boss asking where I am. It hits me all at once that I've been drugged and completely robbed by someone I was out with last night. Frantically, I start canceling all my cards while trying to piece together fuzzy half memories. I vaguely recall being guided drunkenly into an Uber at last call. Then stumbling up my front steps supported under someone's shoulder before passing out cold. That someone had to be Melissa, seeing me as an easy target and waiting for the chance to slip something into one of those shots. I'm utterly ashamed and embarrassed that I let this happen. My eagerness to bond with a new girl clearly left me blind, ignoring all the warnings in favor of a pretty face. Melissa obviously singled me out, realizing I'd be too flattered by her attention to notice the setup. She played me like a fill. Once the police finally finished their reports and give me paperwork to try locating my stolen cards, the violation really starts to sink in. This sweet, harmless-looking woman was perfectly charming while cunningly plotting to completely take advantage of me. She had zero remorse exploiting my openness, putting my life at risk just to steal my decade-old Civic. Maybe I was stupid and clueless, but it genuinely never occurred to me a Tinder match would turn criminal for quick cash. The psychopathic entitlement Melissa felt to my possessions by any means necessary was terrifying. I knew better than to blame myself. She was the only one responsible for sinking so low. But I did make a vow to be smarter protecting myself moving forward when meeting strangers from the internet. No more letting attraction cloud my street smarts and self-preservation. After that harsh wake-up call, I took a long break from Tinder, disgusted and discouraged by the whole thing. Eventually, I made a profile, but approached every match with heavy skepticism. We only met in public places, and I refused to ever let a drink out of my sight. Chatting online was harmless, but anything further required vetting. It sucked feeling constantly distrustful of women I should be getting to know in good faith. While most dates turned out kind and normal once we met up, that nagging feeling of suspicion now tainted even my positive experiences. I hated that one manipulative criminal made me question so many other women's intentions, but I couldn't ignore the violation still fresh in my mind. As a young woman active on dating apps, I always strive to keep safety at the forefront when meeting strangers online. But all my careful precautions still didn't prevent one seemingly upstanding Tinder match from aggressively trying to force his way to my apartment after a first date. His entitled persistence made it chillingly clear he did not take rejection or the word no seriously once we were alone outside my door. Thank God for my roommate's perfectly timed intervention, or who knows what might have happened behind closed doors with this man so set on gaining access. After that alarming experience, I deleted all dating profiles for a long time, feeling violated and losing faith that online dating could ever really be risk-free for women. Jordan had initially come across as one of the more trustworthy prospects in my match queue. His friendly intro messages struck a balance of expressing interest without being pushy or self-focused, showing genuine curiosity about me as a person. The photos on his profile portrayed an easygoing, outdoorsy guy, not intimidatingly macho or vain. When he respectfully asked if I'd be interested in meeting up for a casual drink, I suggested a popular brew pub downtown on a weekday evening. It was a bustling public place where I could safely scope him out in person for the first time. The date unfolded pleasantly at first over a couple pints as we stuck to getting to know you small talk. Jordan came across laid back and charming, paying me polite compliments on my appearance or laugh. Nothing that raised blaring red flags, though in hindsight may be more flattering remarks than appropriate for only having known each other an hour. He asked questions and listened to my responses with interest, only interjecting relatable anecdotes here and there. Still, I let my guard down a bit as we chatted lightly about work, hobbies, hometowns, safe first date fare. When our drinks were done, I mentioned needing to wrap up for an early morning, accepting a ride home since I'd boozed over felt fairly low risk all things considered. As we pulled up outside my apartment building, I sincerely thanked Jordan for dinner and reached to open the passenger door and politely say goodnight. But before I could exit, he abruptly leaned over to place his hand on my shoulder, asking with an eager smile if he could walk me up to my unit to be gentlemanly. His sudden insistence on prolonging our time together and learning where I lived gave me instant pause. But not wanting to appear ungraciously distrustful or assume the worst case from his behavior shift, I reluctantly agreed to the quick walk upstairs. Outside my door, I unlocked it swiftly and gave Jordan another parting thank you, firmly reiterating that I was calling it a night. But rather than respectfully turn to leave as I expected, he brazenly moved in closer, lowering his voice to suggest we go inside together for one more drink. I stiffened as his eyes raked over me standing pinned against the door, a stark contrast from the friendly composure of our brewery chat. The abrupt change in his demeanor instantly sounded my internal alarm. I just wanted to end this encounter and retreat behind my locked door. I tried restating more adamantly that I was done for the night and reached hurriedly for the handle. But Jordan forcefully extended an arm to brace against the frame, using his substantial height advantage to block me from escaping inside, as he insisted we should hang out for a bit first. Fear spiked through me with the realization I was trapped while my pepper spray sat uselessly tucked away inside my purse. Just then, the door suddenly yanked open from inside. My vigilant roommate Julia must have sensed trouble brewing when she heard the man's voice growing louder and more forceful. She instantly pulled me behind her for protection and stepped right up to Jordan's face, ordering him to turn around and leave immediately in a tone that brooked zero argument. I glimpsed his smug veneer crack as he registered the tables had turned. He tried weakly protesting that he'd just been trying to be friendly before disappearing down the stairs with his tail between his legs when Julia stood unmoving as a sentinel. Once safely inside with the door bolted, the adrenaline crash left me reeling as I unloaded the whole unnerving encounter to my roommate, who helped talk me through the swirling emotions. I was overwhelmed with gratitude for her perfect timing and instinct to intervene. There was truly no telling what Jordan's true intentions were for so persistently trying to gain access to my apartment against my explicit verbal and physical signals of discomfort. None of his initial politeness or interest during our public date aligned with that entitled, controlling behavior once we were alone outside my door. The following days, I agonized endlessly over every past interaction with Jordan, ruminating for any nuance or red flag I might have overlooked beneath his personable, respectful facade. Had there been any provocative or objectifying undercurrents lurking beneath the surface of our light banter? Or had this guy simply mastered using superficial charm to conceal his true predatory colors until I was vulnerable? The fact that some I laughed with easily over dinner later utterly disregarded my personal boundaries left me feeling especially rattled, unsafe, and permanently skeptical. Ultimately, the violation and trauma of the encounter ran too deep. I ended up deleting all my dating profiles for a long while after that incident, badly shaken and losing all trust in the process. As a woman, the harsh truth crystallized that simply going on a casual first date posed submitting myself to a strange man's mercy anytime we were alone, whether briefly by the door or behind closed doors. And I could no longer reassure myself that every man could be relied upon to recognize that absolute physical power imbalance as a sacred responsibility not to be abused. When I finally re-downloaded dating apps many months later, it was with an abundance of caution, safety measures, and cynicism. I immediately blocked any match whose vibe seemed even slightly off or who gave me pause. We only met in hyper-public spots where I controlled my own transportation. Any red flag or pressure to be alone set off instant alarm bells and ended the encounter. Well-intentioned guys quickly tired of the rigorous interrogation process, but I could not bring myself to let my guard down after nearly becoming another statistic.
Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.